looking at this passage to understand the relationship between freedom and capitalism. And we had stopped here. Last time we had defined freedom as, so we had covered this. That's the definition of freedom. Freedom is self-determination. The right to do what one pleases as long as this does not interfere with the right of other members of society to do as they please. Now today we are going to look at from a capitalism recognizes no criteria for evaluating the worth of personal choices. He who chooses to run a madrasa is entitled to the same concern and respect as he who chooses to manage a bar. So choices are the ultimate criterion. So your desire or will. The only restriction is that it shouldn't interfere with the right of other members of society. The only unworthy act is to restrict the freedom of the individual. Okay, let's look at this a bit more closely. Let's see. So capitalism doesn't give us any criterion for evaluating of different choices. So in principle, in capitalism, there's no hierarchy among choices. Every choice is equally worthy, in theory anyway. And since choices require every choice, whether the choice is choice A to make a madrasa, choice B to manage a bar, resources capitalism is concerned with accumulating resources. So a capitalist society is a society which is dedicated to overcoming the lack of resources or scarcity. And the justification for that is that, human choices need resources to be fulfilled. And the only external ultimate limit on choices is the lack of resources. So capitalist society, the society is dedicated to overcoming this scarcity of resources. And only internal criteria is that my choice shouldn't interfere with the similar choice of the other person. So as long as I let this person manage the bar, I'm entitled to manage a madrasa. And since in order to run a madrasa, I need resources, and in order to run a bar, I need resources. That's why we both should accept capitalism, because capitalism is a system which doesn't stop me from doing A or B. So we can justify capitalism according to our own choices. So that's why capitalism really can coexist with a lot of different ideologies, at least in principle. Okay, so that's what this passage is saying. So capitalism recognizes no criteria for evaluating the worth of personal choices. He who chooses to run a madrasa is entitled to the same concern and respect uh, and respect as he who chooses to manage a bar. The only unworthy act is to restrict the freedom of the individual. So the only unworthy act is to limit, to restrict my choice to make a madrasa or restrict your choice to make a bar. So that's the theory. But the thing is, here is the catch. The catch is this: if you dedicate yourself, or if a society dedicates itself to overcoming scarcity, and that becomes the only overall goal of a society, then in such a society, in the long run, what prospers is the bars and not the madrasa. So in such a society, it becomes, in the long run, it becomes more difficult to live a religious life individually and especially socially. And the reason is that religious life, especially Islamic religious life, is based on the priority of the hereafter over this world, and the transitional and transitory nature of this world. And capitalism requires you to, because you can't dedicate your society and its resources to overcoming scarcity unless you implicitly, at least implicitly, accept that this world is not a transitory place. This world is eternal, or it can be eternalized. So that's why capitalism cannot prosper without, capitalism can prosper in a religious society, but it cannot prosper in a society which believes in reality that this world is a transitory place. That's why capitalism is more compatible with this worldly religions like Protestantism or versions of Islam which are this worldly, like Wahhabism, for example. Okay, we'll stop here and we'll continue this from here, inshallah.